Hi, welcome to Monique Dickson from the Cyclical Mum. That's how you say it, eh?
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, girls, this is Monique, and she's just coming in today just to talk to us about, well, menstrual cycles generally. We're just going to totally freestyle this chat, and we're just going to ask her questions all about who she is, what she does, and how it can help us in our lives. So, welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks so much for coming. And tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll ask you some questions to prompt you along.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for having me here. I'm always up for a chat on menstrual cycles and periods and hormones and lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I love chatting about it. And I think my husband is glad that today I get to chat to you about it and not to him or the kids about it. So it's a win-win. So I am a farmer's wife in rural New Zealand. We're in Tokoroa at the moment, which is like middle of the North Island.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feed calves when I'm not doing coaching. I've got 4 young kids that I home educate. So like life is pretty full on. So yeah, coaching is like the fun parts where I get to do what I want to do, and
Yeah.
not like the farm mum wife life
Yeah.
that consumes me sometimes.
Yes.
What else? That's like really
That's who you are.
me at
Okay,
the
so
moment.
first of all, just out of curiosity, because I have 4 kids as well, but they're not all little. So what are the ages of or age group of your kids?
So my eldest is 6, and then I got a nearly 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 10-month-old.
What? Okay. And
Yeah.
the reason I ask this is because I know what it's like parenting children,
Mm.
and that amount of children, and when hormones are involved, holy, like that
I
changes
know.
the whole thing.
I
So,
know.
so
When
that's my
teenagers and
curiosity
parenting collide, it's just like all heck breaks loose around here.
Yeah. So tell me, what got you into so your business is the Cyclical Mum. What got you into this?
Yeah. Well, I entered motherhood. I was really young. I was 22 years old, and it was kind of all I ever wanted to do. And I just like took to it. I was like loving it. I had this little daughter, and my husband was on the farm full time. And then like desperately wanted another one, so I got another one. And then I had like it was an 18-month age gap, so I had a toddler and a newborn, and I was um I was doing everything all the time. So I was like putting 3 meals down the table for my husband. I was keeping the house tidy. I was like this thin, fit wife, because I thought that's what society expected me to be. I bounced back after birth because that's also what I thought society expected me to be. And I kind of just hit this time of it just all got too much and I couldn't do it all the time anymore. And I honestly thought that it was my fault that I couldn't do that. I thought that well, my own mother had done it. My own mum had 6 children and also lived on a farm. So like, what was wrong with me? And I
Mm.
eventually worked out that it wasn't me that was broken, it was the system that was broken, expecting women to turn up with the same energy and the same motivation and productivity and the same like needs every single day of their life. And once I worked that out and that I had these hormones that were changing like literally on a daily basis,
Mm.
I was I was like, there's like this weight lifted off my shoulders, and I was like, it's not me that's broken, it's the system that's broken. And I actually have this internal physical thing happening to my body
Mm.
that is making me feel like this. And I have weeks where I can do it all and be like this wonderful, amazing wife and mom and partner and daughter and friend. And the following week, I don't want to do any of that. And that's okay. And once I like learned that, and then I felt that in my body, so I had my own lived experience, then I was like, I was gonna tell every single woman that I came across. So it's a
So,
real
so
natural
how, I
evolution.
mean, okay, so from my perspective, that's not something that I've ever just stumbled upon the knowledge of realizing that I'm a bit cuckoo because of my menstrual cycles or because of, we don't have to do
Yeah.
everything all the time. How did you actually discover that? Like, how did
Uh,
that happen?
it was definitely a book that I was recommended to read through a lady that I was following who lived in, I think, America or Australia. She said, "Hey, try this book. Like, it's got a lot of answers in it." And then I was down a rabbit hole, and then so it was a book that pretty much explained what our hormones are doing in a really easy to read way. So I actually bought that book, and then I bought like 5 or 6 more copies, and I was like, "Mum, read this. My sisters read this. Like my husband here, read all these bits that are highlighted. You need to know that's about women." So yeah,
So
felt
what was the
really
book?
passionate about it. A
What was
Period Power by Maisie Hill.
Period Power by
Yeah,
Maisie Hill?
by
Okay.
Maisie Hill, really great starting book. Yeah, really
Okay,
amazing.
that's awesome. And so then from there, obviously, you just thought, wow, this has changed you. Obviously, it must have changed
Yeah.
your life for you
Oh,
to make it into a business.
oh, for sure. Yeah. Then I was so then I studied to become a menstrual cycle coach. And yeah, like there's such a thing, and there is, and I'm it.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's like your intro on the menstrual,
Yeah, no,
menstrual cycle
right.
coach.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's right. So, so I work with women on like a really emotional level because our emotions change throughout the month and our feelings change. But I also work with women on a hormonal level because I kind of believe most of us have got our hormones in such a disarray that we can't actually feel our menstrual cycle as it should be. So once we get our hormones worked out and fixed, and then we can feel and actually begin to enjoy the process of our hormones ebbing and flowing throughout the month. So I think
Wow.
it starts with hormones, and then we can move on to the emotional
So
stuff.
when you start with hormones, is that something that do you advise people to go to a doctor or get something measured, or how does that work?
Yeah, it kind of depends what they are. So first of all, they have to, I suppose, be off the pill because when you're on the pill, you have a really flat line level of hormones. You literally take progesterone and estrogen every single day, so your hormones are flat line. And then when you're off the pill, your hormones like go peak and trough throughout the month. And so if they're not doing that, like there's some symptoms and signs that I can go, oh, you like got to get this leveled out before we can like work. Get much deeper into what's really going on. So it's mostly around estrogen. So estrogen is a hormone that I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's like the Beyonce of hormones. Like it's really out there, and we just want to like communicate and be bold and dance, and we can do all of these things. And then at one point in our cycle, so after we ovulate, this estrogen just does a nosedive, like it literally just it drops right off, and the other hormone comes in called progesterone, and progesterone is like the opposite to estrogen. So progesterone is like progestation. It wants us to stay pregnant. So after ovulation, our body wants us to have a baby and keep that baby safe. So it stops us going out with our friends. It stops us wanting to try new things. It stops us wanting to be communicative and like out there and caring for other people. It wants us to literally care for ourselves in a really deep way.
Wow. 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 Does it make us want to eat chocolate?
Yes, it does. Yep, it absolutely does. It wants us to have like carbohydrates, so like chips on the couch in front of Netflix is all we want to do when we've got progesterone high in our body.
Wow, that is crazy. So
Yeah.
I did write a couple of questions down. So uh, what why do hormones matter so much that you have built a business around it? Like, I mean, every woman has them. And I hear what you're saying, but why is it so important that we understand it? Because why does it affect our lives so much that you actually are going to train people or you are training people how to
Yeah.
manage it?
Yeah, absolutely. So our hormones are like little messengers in our body. So if we so we are these hormones like they influence how what we want to eat, they influence our mood, they influence our libido, so our sex drive, they influence how much energy we have, they influence how like we want to exercise, our motivation, our productivity. So really hormones are the key drivers of everything that we do and we feel in our life.
Oh,
And no one teaches us that. And hormones also are really influenced by our diet and our lifestyle. So cortisol is the stress hormone. So we literally can feel stressed, and then the hormone is released in our body, and that constricts or like pumps blood to different places in our body in our fight and flight response. And yeah, just it influences a lot. But I think I might start with that some people don't actually want to know about our hormones. Like they are the underlying, but they are quite confusing, and it's a big process to understand. So what what we learn about in the menstrual cycle coaching is that our menstrual cycle can be broken down into 4 phases. And that might be a really good starting point for everyone here because it's easier to understand rather than like the hormones are high here and low here and do a flip around here and this hormone adds in here. But we can break it down into general patterns that happen every single like week of our menstrual cycle. So would you like me to start with the 4 phases of the cycle?
yeah, totally. Yeah.
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 Okay. And I might just ask, do you know what day you're on? Like,
You know what? I write down the day that I get my period, and then
yeah,
all I do is work out when it's coming again, so I can
yeah,
figure out a week before why I'm feeling like this or that.
yeah,
But so that's all I know. So no, I don't
yeah,
really.
yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Do you want to find out just while I explain now? Like, is it on your phone or is it on a calendar or something? Because it would be interesting to
Uh,
relate to where you're at now and where I'm at and how we feel as to and what phase of the cycle we're in.
okay, you keep chatting, and I'll see if I
Okay,
can figure it out.
all right. So the 4 phases of our menstrual cycle are like the 4 seasons of our life. So I talk about the seasons of our life being the maiden season, which is like birth till 25 years old. And in that season of our life, we're really like spontaneous and adventurous, and it's all about us and discovering who we are and what we want to do and experimenting and having a lot of fun as a maiden in our life. And then we kind of transition about 25 years old into the mother season of our life. And that season, whether you've got babies or not, like so you have kids that you're nurturing, or you could have like a business or books or a career or a family or a relationship or a home, anything that we want to create, kind of something outside of ourselves. So we want to nurture other things and create and build it, and we can handle all of like the stresses of life more so than what the maiden could. And so we transition out of the mother season of our life into the wild woman season of our life about age 50. So we go through perimenopause and menopause, and then it becomes more about who we are again now, without these children or these businesses or these relationships in our life. And we want to like really turn inwards and find out who we are. That's the wild woman season of our life. And then about age 75, we transition into the crone season of our life. So it's a lot more about us being slow and gentle. We just want to sit down and observe life going around us. We're quite peaceful, and we just want to like tell stories and be really kind of wise. So the crone at that time in our life. So the 4 phases of your menstrual cycle are really similar to that. I'll start with the maiden phase, and this is just after you finish bleeding. It can be really, so you finish bleeding, you kind of feel like, oh, I'm getting this energy again. And it's a really young, fresh energy that's very similar to the maiden energy in the seasons of our life. Yeah. So with that young, fresh maiden energy, we want to just like try things and do things and be playful and cheeky. It's a time in my cycle where I'm like really cheeky with my husband, and I like want to play fight him, and I want to like do little digs at him, and he's like, oh, here we are again, we're in this phase, are we? And I'm like, yes, it's so much fun. And then if we let the energy really accumulate in our body, which is comes from the hormone estrogen, we then like gear up for ovulation, and ovulation is the main event. So ovulation is like the mother season of our life. So we kind of hit this real peak in our life. We can do everything. We can communicate so easily. We want to like look after others and nurture our relationships, and we want to like give, and then we've still got enough energy at the end of the day to make love to our partners. Like we've just got so much giving energy, and we can really do it all. And then shortly after ovulation, we lose all of that estrogen that was in our body, and we get the progesterone like we were talking about, and we hit this wild woman phase of our cycle. So then we're much more of a like, don't even come near me, like don't even touch me. Wow. I just want to go and have a bath on my own and shut the door, and I don't want the world to even be around me right now. Wow. So that's post ovulation, and we're in there for, it depends on everyone, but about a week to 10 days can be the wild woman phase of our cycle. And that's also when PMS shows up and all this truth telling, and we get really cross and angry, and that's all really normal and really natural, because if we didn't have this phase in our cycle, it would all be rosy all the time. Like, can you imagine if we just got walked over all the time and we just did everything for everyone? So this wild woman phase of our cycle is actually really important, even though it's really hard to go through.
So necessary, necessary evil.
It so is, I know. And I wish like the men, we can teach them to actually listen to the truth, what we're saying. Like it might come out really cross and really grumpy, but actually there's some real truth into that, and whatever is coming up we actually need to listen to and make changes for in our life.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
so big.
I know. And so then the wild woman phase ends, right? And we get our period, and that begins the crone phase of our cycle, just like the crone season of our life, where when we're on our period, we just want to be like slow and gentle. We just want like warm baths and warm nourishing food, and to just not really go and do anything outward facing. And then it like starts all over again. And so every month we go through these 4 phases of our cycle that are just like the seasons of our life.
So it almost feels like you're kind of poked for about 2 weeks of the month every month. It feels really like, oh, are we going to have 2 really dreary, slow weeks out of every month? Is that normal, or is there a way to manage that and make that better? Or is it just you've just got to deal with it and just live your life around that? Yeah, well, that's interesting that you say this. So I like to flip that on the head. Like, what if that wasn't a bad thing, and what if it was a good thing? What if actually we weren't robots who could live in this beautiful high energy phase of our life, that we actually need the rest and the retreat and the time on ourselves instead? Like, what if we could look at it as a really beautiful time in our cycle to really look inward and get really clear on what we actually do want, and then the week after that take some rest for what we need, and then
what I see women doing is when they do give themselves that time, that they actually have more energy in their maiden and their mother phases of their cycle.
Yeah. So,
But that's,
so talk to me about, because we still live in reality, and reality is most people have to go to work and look after
yeah.
kids and
Mhm.
do things around the house, even if they don't want to. So, how do you manage those parts of your life when you still have to be all of the things and wear all of the hats?
Yeah, I love that question because it's so true, and it generally is the first question that I get asked, that we can't actually align our entire life with our cycle. In a dream world, we definitely could. So I can talk about how I do it in my own life, which is, as you know, in your life is so busy and so full. I actually have this really deep trust that if I don't do the work, like when I'm bleeding, I try and rest as much as I can, but I can leave the washing and the dishes to a certain extent and know that in just a few more days' time, I will have the energy to do it all plus more.
Mm, mm.
So, and to just, we talk about just a 1% shift. So, what if you could just change just one little thing a day that you could do to align with your cycle? So, instead of like organizing the kid's birthday party for the week of your wild woman phase or your crone phase, what if you could just delay it like 5 days until it's the next weekend? And then your energy would be so different. What if you could not have like that family gathering on this Friday and just change it to like 2 days later, and you might be just a little bit more closer to ovulation, and it will be a lot easier? Like, what if we didn't have to push hard in our businesses and be like on all the time? What if we could do all of our content in that middle phase of our cycle where we have got that energy and we have got the
Wow.
communication that comes so much easier?
Wow, that is actually amazing. And my mind's already blown just hearing this, because I think back, like, I'm coming into the wild woman phase now. And I'm thinking back all of those years of thinking, my kids would be like, oh, just stay back from mum. Like, and my son would just be like, straight up, are you getting a period? Like, because they know your ebbs and your flows.
Yeah.
And I think, man, it would have been so nice to know this so much longer ago. But I mean, I think I manage way, way better now in this age group. But I still am going to definitely apply some of these things to my life going forward, because I do know about my own business. Like, I absolutely dread, and I'll actually ask you this question as well, going out into social situations at certain times. Like, I can some days go out and be so happy and greet everybody and be a box of fluffy ducks and feel completely confident and awesome. And then other days, which I just literally put in my group, I said, other days I hide from the lawnmower man. And I'm not even kidding. I hide in my house in case they see me. And I don't want to go out. And if I go out, I wear my sunnies. I don't take them off in or out of the shops, because I don't want eye contact and I don't want to talk to anyone. So is that very cyclical as well?
Yeah, extremely cyclical. And I love that you've already noticed this. Like, if you could just now attach that to where you are in your cycle, like
Wow.
you'll now know to plan like that week. Just don't do too much
I
around.
literally called it social anxiety because I did not know what else to call it. I just thought I've got social anxiety. But then just yesterday, when I went out to drop my daughter to camp and all that, I was like happy talking to the teachers and everyone else. And I had a little joke with this person
Yeah.
and that person. And then I think to myself, who even am I? I'm like Jekyll and Hyde. Like, some days I don't even want to see that person. And the next day they're my best friend. It's
Yeah.
cyclical.
It's
Wow.
so cyclical. Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
And you're not broken, and it's not your fault. It's you've got hormones in your body that are trying to keep you and like a potential baby safe.
Wow, that is just, honestly, I'm actually mind blown. This is crazy. So how do you do this around four kids? Little ones, I've got four, but they were two kind of gaps. I had the 16 month in between
Oh,
children as well. So I did
yeah.
that. But I
Yeah.
still don't I still don't think I could do four.
You know what? That you so could, because we all just get up and we all keep going. But what I've got now is this amazing tool, like that I say to my kids, mum doesn't want to pull the crafts out today. We're just
Mm.
going to put the TV on, and we're going to play. My favorite game to play is we're going to put mummy to bed today. Like some blankets and pillows, and put it all around me. We'll put the music on, and we'll do. So I kind of bring them on a journey with me through my whole cycle, and sometimes it's like, right, quick, let's get out of the house. We've got to go. We're going to go to the skate park, and then we're going to go to the groceries, and then we're going to go home, and we're going to help dad on the farm. We're going to whiz home and then make dinner, and it's just all going to be so much fun. And then the week later, I'm like, you know what? We're just going to just go for a steady walk outside today. And I think I don't use the wild woman phase with them, but I do. They definitely know when I'm on my period, and I just want to go slow, and we're just going to be gentle, and we're not going to go and do much. We're definitely not going to get the crafts out that day.
Oh, it's so good that you know that. I wish I had, like, I have a coming up 23-year-old, and she has interesting hormones like I used to have, and I think, like, at least this kind of thing would have helped me understand her and her hormones better. But then I also have an 11 and a 10-year-old, and they're coming up to those kinds of funny phases too. So at least now I'm going to know, okay, this is how, this is when to be gentle. This is when they want to have, this is when they do want to ride their bikes to school or go to the skate park after school, like you said. Like, I'll actually be able to know about them, even if I feel like I've somewhat missed the boat on it. At
Yeah,
least I'll know for
absolutely.
them, eh?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
what about other women around you in your life? Like, I mean, it's not like a kind of a question where you can go, hey, can we have this interview? Because, oh, hold on, are you on your period, or are you coming up to your period? Like what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like, how do
yeah.
you manage it where it comes to your actual business life?
Yeah, so you'll come into your wild woman phase now, so it's a good time for you to be like probably just at the end of like doing something like this. I'm actually day 3, so I'm actually bleeding today, and
Mm,
so I booked this not knowing that I was going to get my period because I had a really long cycle. But it's all about the way that I care for myself. So how I prepared for this is different this week than how I would have needed to prepare for this last week, and
mm,
and how I'm going to recover from having this interview with you today. So I'm going to take more time to be slower. I'm not going to have anything else in my diary all day today. Like, this is the only thing that I've got booked in.
mm, mm,
That's how I make it work. Like, I look after myself before and after said event.
mm. Oh, that is so good. Can you tell me a little bit about with the patterns, cyclical patterns? Does it affect sleep as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. So, if your hormones are balanced, so what I see generally happen is that we've got too much estrogen in our body. So, and estrogen is really great, but we don't want too much because it's kind of like having that feeling that's like too much energy in your face all the time. And so, what happens is we have estrogen peaks when we ovulate in the middle of our mother phase, and then estrogen drops right off. So, the higher that your estrogen is, the longer and the bigger that you have to fall off that cycle before progesterone is going to pick you back up again. So progesterone is this beautiful sleep hormone, but if you haven't got, if your estrogen is too high, then you're not going to feel the beautiful effects of progesterone. So this is what I often see is that our estrogen is too high, and we have all of these issues in our body, in our life, and our environment. But if we are to reduce our estrogen and keep our estrogen and our progesterone in check, then what happens is we have this amazing sleep in this wild woman phase of our cycle. This progesterone just puts us to sleep beautifully. We sleep really well in that week before our period.
Oh,
Is
wow.
that what you experience?
So I have never really even thought about my cycle affecting my sleep. I'm only thinking about it right now because we're talking about it. So I've never thought about it before. It's just like I know things about myself, like, sugar or carbs,
Mm.
different things, the different ways I eat. Like, it's, like, obviously when you're coming up to grumpy time, you feel like chips and you feel
Yeah.
like things that you don't
Mm.
normally feel like. And I don't know, I'll do things like that I don't normally do, like eating later or like having a snack at night, or I don't know, it's just really odd. So I'm only recognizing these things now because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But what about things like sugar when you're so hold on, rewind. What sort of things cause too much estrogen in your body?
Yeah, so environmental factors. So if we're around pesticides or herbicides, they've got a lot of estrogens in them. If we drink or eat out of too much plastic food, it's got a lot of estrogen in them as well. And
Mm,
if we are eating too much soy products, they've got like a lot of estrogen in them as well. So
mm,
keeping that in check is really important. But like the precursor to that is that we don't detoxify estrogen well enough because our liver is so overly burdened by the processed foods and the alcohol
yeah.
and the sugar that we're consuming and the stress that we're putting into our
Mm,
body
mm,
that our liver can't process and detoxify all the estrogen that our body is making and that
mm,
we're consuming. So that's kind of like the two factors that cause really high estrogen in our
mm.
bodies.
Yeah. So dietary wise, what would be your best suggestion for having the lowest or the healthiest kind of?
Yeah, so we don't want too low. We want a really like lovely middle ground. So what I say is you want to use and lose estrogen. So you want to use estrogen, you want to use it up in your body. And so some things that you can do to use up your estrogen is to do high intensity workout. So sweat your estrogen out. So especially like the end of your maiden phase coming into your mother phase, like some high intensity workouts or sitting in the sauna and just getting like sweating out as much as you can, it'll feel really good and it'll kind of re-energize you as at the same time, because exercise, like high intensity exercise, is great at that time in our cycle. But the other things we can do is to drink enough water to flush it out of our body, but to also up our fiber intake so we can like poo it out, really.
Yeah. Wow, it's amazing.
Real simple stuff.
All of this I just can't even believe, because I'm connecting so many dots right now. Like, so for example, you know, I do like going for a walk and stuff like that, but I'm not like a runner or anything like that. But every time I've ever gone into strenuous exercise, I've found this happens every single time without fail. And I tell every person, if I go to a trainer or a gym or whatever, on week 3, I end up sick, really, really sick, chest infections, like really badly. And it's like I push myself hardcore at the gym, but by week 3, I'm wrecked. And I wonder if that has to do with all of that as well, like just not giving yourself the rest or not giving yourself any kind of break when you need the break. I don't know. Does that factor in like cycle?
It is. There absolutely is. So the food that we eat changes as we go through our cycle to support our different hormones. The exercise we do changes as we go through our cycle to support our hormones as well. So you kind of hit on the head there. So we do like gentle, like getting to like a little bit of cardio in our maiden phase. If you kind of think about the energy that we're embodying for that phase, so the maiden's like quite fun, like so dance parties are real fun, like a little bit of jogging can be really fun, but then some real high intensity stuff in our mother phase is really great. And then we finish our mother phase and we don't want to do any kind of like real hard intense cardio, but we're really good at the long, slow plodding along. Like we've got heaps of endurance in that third phase of our cycle. And we've also got really great like weightlifting capacity. So strenuous and resistance training is really good at that time. And then like when we're in the crone phase, when we're bleeding, to pretty much just walk and rest as much as you can. And you won't lose fitness in this time, like we are conditioned to believe that we will. But if you really give yourself if you really give yourself time to rest in that phase, you'll find you've got more energy in your maiden phase to like do more dancing and more playing and more running, and then you'll really peak again in that ovulation mother phase. And often we hit our personal best when we are exercising in that ovulatory phase, that mother phase of our cycle, like because our estrogen is just pumping. We've just got so much energy. We just need to make the most of it.
It's such a fascinating conversation, because like everything that you're talking about now, I'm thinking like, so the Olympics is not really fair, is it? Because there's some women who will be at this part of their cycle and some will be at that part of their cycle, so they won't be performing as well as they might be. And it's like, actually it messes the whole world up when you think of it like that. It's like, actually the Olympics should be just somebody running up their own street as fast as they can, and you film that on the day that they're at their peak, and then go film the other person when they're at their peak, and see who wins.
It's so much fairer, right?
So much fairer. Oh wow.
Yeah. What you'll find is a lot of them don't actually have a menstrual cycle because they're pushing their bodies so hard, and when we do that, when we put our bodies into so much stress, our bodies goes, well, there's no way I want to make a baby while I'm in so much stress right now, so I'm just going to switch ovulation right off.
No way. Is that how that happens? Like, so many girls who like are anorexic or just not eating properly and they lose their cycles, is it because their body is going, nah, after this?
Or even women on a really low carbohydrate diet can find that they lose their cycles because we need like a little bit of carbohydrates in our body for our body to feel safe enough to ovulate and want to make babies.
Wow, that is insane. This whole thing is insane. Wow, my mind is completely open now. Like, I'm like, wow, I did not know. I knew there was something up with hormones and the way, you live your daily life. I just didn't know it was this intense. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me, so I've never, well, only when I was much, much younger, a teenager, but not taken the pill because it just made me feel really quite nauseous. So I've never been on the pill really, but so how does that affect you, like estrogen and all those sorts of hormones? What does that do to your body having, being on the pill long term?
Yeah, so you go on the pill generally for like stop you getting pregnant, which means it switches off your ovulation. So that's really the best way to stop pregnancy, is to not even ovulate. So, and if you don't ovulate, you don't get that beautiful like high of estrogen and then the beautiful calming effect of progesterone. You just get, and so you take the hormones every single day throughout the month, and then if you take your sugar pills, which are really just like nothing in there, what you have is not even a period, it's a withdrawal bleed. So it's literally your body going, oh, I haven't got the estrogen and progesterone in my body right now, I've got to release my lining, and that's a withdrawal bleed. Then you start again 5 or 7 days later, and so your hormones are actually really flatlined.
Okay, so it's not ideal, obviously, for your body just to be flat like that.
No, you don't get the yeah, there's a couple of things, and it's absolutely anybody's choice, because not having a pregnancy is like really important, especially when you're young and stuff. But there are other ways to prevent pregnancy, and like education is huge, and body literacy, so getting to know your own body is really important. But by having been on the pill, we don't have like, so it's estrogen and progesterone, but it's not actually body identical. So our hormones, so we don't get the high peak of energy and then like the progesterone again, because it's not, our body can't recognize that as the same hormones that we do make inside of us. So you don't get like all the 4 phases of the cycle, although some women do think they do experience it. So whether that's to do with the energy of the moon or something could be in there as well. But yeah, they don't get the biological flow of hormones like we do being off the pill.
Wow. So in that case, if you're on the pill, you can't really have the same effect of measurement as what you're talking about in the cycle. You can't really apply it to people who are on the pill, can you?
No, you can't. Although what I would say, and it's the same when you're breastfeeding, when you haven't got a cycle, and I do say work with the energy of the moon, and not in a real woo-woo way, but actually the moon gives us a 29.5-day cycle, which is very similar to the woman's cycle. So you can not train your body, but you can work with like that slow energy and then the peaking energy at the full moon and then winding back down again, so you can give your body the rest that she does need, because you still, like, women are still burning out on the pill and not giving their bodies enough rest. So if you do like tune to the moon and use that as a guide for how you live your life, it can be really powerful as well. And especially when you come off the pill, it can be really beneficial to, like, your body already knows like to ebb and flow and be really energetic, and then to shrink back down again and be home and cuddly and rest, and then like pick up again, and because that's how we were designed to live, right? Like we weren't designed to be like the man, because the man is like the sun shines, like wakes up in the morning, shines all day, goes to sleep, the next day the same thing, like they're on a 24-hour cycle. So they wake up in the morning, they get a shot of testosterone, and they've got like this energy like to do running and exercise, and then they go to work at like 9 o'clock, and then they like do all their productivity stuff in the morning, and then after lunch they feel a little bit like slow, so they go to happy hour, they have like meetings, and then they like wind off in the evening, and they're quite tired, and they fall asleep on the couch, and then they go to bed, and they like regather all their energy, and they wake up the next day 8 o'clock and get testosterone shot, and like, so it's every single day they're the same. So the 9 to 5 I know so it is easier, and it's because our like society has been designed around that. So the 9 to 5 workday like suits the man so well. It's exactly how his hormones work.
Oh, it's not fair. It's really not fair.
Let's shout that.
But now that's funny, because how I'm saying everything you're saying is like, wow, that makes me realize this and realize that. And even that whole full moon thing where guys on, you just see it online now, go, oh, it must be a full moon, she's going cray, whatever. So that's because of that, your highest energy, or
yeah, it could be. Yeah, I don't know if you found it in your kids, but I definitely find it in my house. Like, I think the full moon must have been last night or something. I woke up this morning with all 4 kids in my bed. Like, there must be something going on, and it kind of makes sense because the moon like pulls the tides, and we're like 80% water, so it must affect us a little
there
bit.
a blood moon or something happening?
Oh yeah, I think you might have been right. Something like that happened. Yeah.
So that's why all 4 kids had to dive into bed with you. Marvelous. Oh, that is so awesome. Okay, let me just check these questions, make sure that we have covered everything. Because it's around resources. Resources. So you are the cyclical mum. So I will obviously just, link some of your stuff here. But what do you do in the cyclical mum? How do you help people? Like, what are your resources that are available for women?
Yeah, so I've developed this quiz, which is really great, and it's on my website. If you go there, thecyclicalmum.nz, and you literally click on the quiz, it'll ask you some questions, and it'll ask you what day of your cycle you're on, and how long your cycle normally is, and it'll spit out at the end what phase of your cycle you're in, and you'll get a download specific for that phase, and it'll tell you, well, if you're in the wild woman phase of your cycle, you need to do this, and you might be feeling like this, and do this as your self-care to support your hormones this week. And then the following week, like an automated email goes out and it goes, hey, you might have changed phases, like take the quiz again, and maybe like you'll see where you are, and you can work with that phase as well. So it kind of happens for 4 weeks. You get all these guides. So that's probably the best starting place for everyone to go there to work out where they are, like today, right now.
Yep. Okay, that's awesome. But do you have other resources after that if they need?
I've actually just developed an eating guide, so 30 days of eating for your cycle, which you might be quite interested in, because it kind of talks you through like what foods to incorporate in your maiden phase, your mother phase, how to support your hormones in your wild woman phase, so we don't get those like highs and those lows of the energy and the sugar and the carbs and the craving as well. And what foods are really good in your crone phase. So that's really good. I've got another couple of guides coming out next week, like how to parent through your cycle, how to exercise through your cycle, like how to look after your self-care through your cycle, but just developing all those. And this is supposed to come out this week, but I got my period. I was like, oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm not
looking
releasing
after yourself. Yeah. That is so good. Well, you've got to practice what you preach, otherwise. Come on,
absolutely.
Be fair, right?
I'm really accountable. Yeah, and I'm just opening up spaces for coaching for next year. So that'll all be released on my Instagram account if you give me a follow.
Yeah, that is awesome. I just didn't really even realize the depth of and the level of the need for knowing this stuff. So I mean, I really, really wish I could rewind 10 years. This would have done me so much good. It would have. But you know what? It's okay. I can still apply what I've got left, and to my daughters as well, and also friendships. Because I mean, I guess that you'll know if people just don't want to do stuff. You can work things out a little bit better if you understand about cycles.
Yeah, and it can give us so much compassion when we say to our friend, like, oh, hi. I now go, oh, hi, like, what day are you on? How are you? And they go, oh, I'm day 27, I'm about to bleed. And I'm like, oh, big hugs. I just want to give you a big hug. Like, I hope you're resting and have an early night. And it kind of just helps us meet them where they're at. Yeah.
And now just having this chat, I feel like every single woman in 30 plus, because that's the age group, they should all do the quiz, so then we can just greet each other. Hi, how are you? What day of the cycle are you on? And then we can just be aware straight away.
I know. And maybe another time we can come on here and chat about what happens at perimenopause, because that's like a whole nother story. Like, and that's from like 35, 45 onwards up until 50 menopause.
Coming up.
So like a lot of things change now, hormones in our body at that stage, which can be quite full on. So it might be another chat for another time.
Okay, let's definitely book in that chat, because that is my stage. I mean, I am super interested in this anyway, and feeling a little bit regretful that I didn't know so long ago. But I still have a perfect cycle, but I did just recently, 6 months ago now, go on remifemin, which is a natural hormone supplement. And honestly, I have never felt so balanced and so even. I just feel so calm all the time. But in saying that, still sleeping, eating, different things that happen, like being antisocial, all that sort of thing, that's still very real no matter how balanced you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's normal. I want you to know it's not your fault.
Yeah, it's not my fault. Sorry, you guys, it's not my fault. I just don't want to see anybody. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the chat. I'm going to say, you can just say see you later to the group, and we'll I'll chuck some links up and put some bits and pieces up so people know where to find you, and then we'll definitely do that second chat, because I think that's so worth having.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on here. Thanks, everyone.